oh my God, they're going to make me take another assessment. I already took this 5 years ago.
Quite honestly, I was pretty much anti-assessment for so many reasons. When we hear assessments, oftentimes we hear test, we hear pass and fail. These assessments don't define you. They are just tools to help you understand more about yourself. And like Ed said earlier, we can't develop what we don't truly understand.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our Coffee and Coaching podcast. But I want to talk a little bit for those who are new to coffee and coaching. This is truly a conversation between two coaches. This podcast was born out of me realizing the best conversations I have are with my fellow coaches. Having coffee, talking over the phone would be the most impactful conversations and fun conversations. So I was like, I think people should listen in because there's so much growth that comes for both of us as we're having it that I think a lot of people will benefit from it. So having you as a guest today, Angelique, is incredible. And I want to start with saying a little bit about you. And I know you're going to blush, but we're going to do this because I want them to know that you're here for more than the reason that we go way back. Angelique, you see her right here. She has 20 years of corporate experience dedicated especially to Fortune 500 companies. She is a Gallup certified coach, Mason Clifton strength coach, ICF, and also Gestalt certified coach. She's an executive coach that focuses on transforming organizations, and she focuses on leadership development, but she also integrates talent strategy together with emerging leaders through that strategy in the C-suite, which is so important because you can have a strategy all you want down here, but if the C-suite is not aligned with the strategies we were implemented, it's going to die eventually, right?
That's right.
So Angelique, the work that you do is so valuable, and I'm so glad that you're here to talk about corporate assessments with me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And, I love you, and we've had such a great working relationship and personal relationship. So I'm just really happy to be here and support you and talk about the things we love.
I agree. And so much of my life now is thanks to you. But let's talk about corporate assessments. Gratefully, we both have experienced them, delivered them, consulted from them, hire people that are going to do corporate assessments for either our teams or organizations. So we've been in different hats. In that. Let's start with the why will someone hire someone to do a corporate assessment in their organization? Why will a leader or HR partner will do that?
Yeah. So for many, many reasons. So it could be around development. It could be around hiring. I do a lot of work around succession planning. Also, I get hired a lot for challenged leaders, right? And so the assessment piece is a big part of that. For the work that you introduced me to, an organization will hire a coach for team assessments. So various reasons, from hiring all the way through the succession planning process.
Yeah. And I remember when we first started doing assessments in the group that we shared, one of the companies that we work for. And it was, I still remember, it was one of the most meaningful experiences of my life because I just had a passion for it. And then I had to deliver this to like my peers, and it was Gallup Strengths Finder. We are going to talk about probably the most common corporate assessments. I do want to ask a question before I go there because, every time we start a new company or someone starts a new company, they're like, oh my God, they're going to make me take another assessment. How many assessments are we going to take? Or you go into a new company, it's like, I already took this 5 years ago. I already took this. I'll give you my perspective too, but let's help clarify for people listening. Why are you retaking this assessment? Why is this leader interested in having you take another test about your personality?
Yeah. So, again, I would say it's for various reasons, right? So an organization may have someone to take a test, an assessment so that they can understand personalities, understand styles, understand leadership capabilities. I don't want to get too far because I know we're going to touch on some things, right? Because you and I both have some strong opinions around what it means, right, to assess people and what that should look like from beginning to end. But, I would say there are various reasons around why an organization would want someone to take an assessment. And I have to just throw this in, and I've said this to you a few times. My background is HR, and I developed a passion within HR, a passion for leadership development, organizational effectiveness, all that good stuff. But it was you, Karol, who actually changed my perspective and thinking around assessments, because quite honestly, I was pretty much anti-assessment for so many reasons until you coached me around strengths. I'd been introduced to Hogan, which I absolutely love, prior to meeting you. But I credit you all the time with helping me look more deeply into assessments and why organizations might use them. So I just wanted to
Thank
give you
you.
your
Well,
flowers
I know
there.
you said that
Hmm.
before, and I appreciate you
Yeah.
saying that, because like I think that I didn't know that in the moment when we were talking about it, but it was like, especially with your high input, but like it's like I need to see it before I can like be sure of it. And it
Yeah.
took so many different tests. Like that year we did 100, I think it was 180 Clifton Strengths profiles on that team.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yep.
180 people. And for 180 people, I remember you and I will sit down and I'll be like, these are the strengths. This is what's happening. And I genuinely believe it took that many times for you to be like, well, hold on, there must be something to this because this is way too accurate, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think what I want to say, in addition to that, for anyone that is like, why am I taking on assessment again? There's a lot of things that sometimes we don't know why we do the things we do. So a lot of assessments, in this particular case, Clifton Strengths and many others, they are trying to target the emotional side of your brain, which is your limbic system, and trying to kind of like take off the rational side of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. So that's why a lot of these assessments give you a 20-second time frame for you
Mm-hmm.
to be able to answer. And what it does is sometimes as humans, we tend to lie to ourselves a lot. And a lot of it has to do because we are constantly being pulled away from our true selves by media, relationships, work, religion, like constantly forming a new version of ourselves every day. So what these assessments do is that it's going to ask you certain questions that you need to answer within 20 seconds, which gives you, when you have the most amount of energy to be without thinking. Once your prefrontal cortex kicks in, it's going to be making answers based on history that you have on your brain. So a lot of what your managers want to do is, hey, how do you truly gain energy? What truly gets you excited? Who are you really? And how can I work with you better? To me, the way I will think about it, a corporate assessment done the right way for the right reasons, it is to know, hey, how can I serve you? How can I help you? And if done for those reasons is right. I actually had a team of almost 108 people. They went in, and the last time they took an assessment, they basically felt that they were being punished by the
Mm-hmm.
results of the assessment. And I couldn't understand that. And I'm like, why would you do that? I can see why some people might be hesitant. But what you do need to know is that having a coach is crucial. You can't just have people take assessment without a professional that can explain to you what the assessment is, because that's when you're going to end up categorizing people, putting people in boxes that they shouldn't be in. And I think might drive some of that negative first response when people think about corporate assessment.
Yeah, I think that's right. So I want to touch on a couple of things. So we can't develop what we don't truly understand. And so assessments come into play to help us do that, just as a tool to raise our self-awareness, right? And assessments can be very effective doing that. I think the group of folks may have looked at the activity as something punitive or what have you. And I think that's because when we hear assessments, oftentimes we hear test, we hear pass
Yes.
and fail. And you know this too from administering different assessments. People automatically go to what's at the bottom, right?
Mm.
And think, oh, okay, well, this assessment's going to show me and show my manager what I'm weak in, right? Because, and I always try to tell, in particular with strengths, I always try to stress that don't worry about the bottom. Number one, like it's going to stay at the bottom. I was doing a debriefing yesterday, and the leader had like harmony at 34. And I said, look, don't worry about that. I said, but let's take a look at, your top 5, your top 13, because you make up for that in other areas.
I had a partner of someone that works with us that they had opposite harmonies because we work with strengths all the time. And this employee was like, I need my partner to take this. And they took it. It's like in number 1 harmony. And it was like, oh my God, this is so spot on. And harmony being at the bottom and harmony being top is one of the most confrontative like differences that I've ever seen. And I think people with high harmony get a bad rep, right? But used correctly, it can be a really great leadership.
You need people with harmony.
But I do want to say, you said you also took Hogan before, and that's one that I have not taken. So I want us to talk about the most popular ones. And I think you and I have maybe spoken before, like there's a couple that I have that we can talk here and that you also have. And then but if I would take another certification, probably Hogan will be my next one. Everybody knows the 16 personalities, the executive, like there's so many different ones. And MBTI actually was the first assessment done from an organizational psychology standpoint in the early 1900s before even Gallup and the other ones were developed. And the kind of base in which many of them gets done, which brings that introvert, extrovert, and a high analytical versus more relationship. And it just kind of started everything. What are your thoughts on that MBTI?
Yeah. So I love the MBTI, right? So it's around personality and preferences. I don't have a lot of experience just from a coaching or administration standpoint. I've only taken the MBTI. But I've found it to be quite accurate. And I really like it too when it comes to understanding how to work with your team members, and the same with this, that's more communication. But I appreciate being able to understand the styles. And I wish I could speak more on MBTI, but outside of the fact that I like it and I feel like it's one of like the core assessments, this is what I will say about all of the assessments, because I've taken pretty much all of the ones that we're going to talk about. Well, they're different, right? So you have personality and preference, talent and strengths, leadership, strengths and derailment, and then communication style. The beauty of these, and I think they are all 4 quality assessments, I think the beauty of these is being able to integrate them, when you've taken them, because like I said, I've taken all 4. And so I have gotten, and maybe it's just because of my geekiness around assessments, though, I've gotten pretty good at being able to tap into what I need to when I'm working with others. But I just wanted to say that. But with the MBTI, I think it's a great assessment.
That's something that I personally like. We're trying to use more here at HIK Trainings. It's like, if you take more than one assessment, how we can create a profile built just for you, especially on that like AI support system that has all of your stuff, because they all bring different sides of you. And that's why I wanted to start with MBTI, because the first time I was introduced to MBTI, and I think it was one of the first ones that I took. And you know me, I'm a high introvert that actually prefers solitude and deep relationships. We both have that in common. But on MBTI, I come in as an E, as an extrovert. So I'm an ESTJ. But again, I'm like 3 points and I'm an introvert, right? So I'm like really close to that cusp. So I think that the only thing that for me becomes a little hard is like, well, a lot of people think I'm an extrovert. I call myself a paid extrovert, right? And when I'm at work, I have to turn it on higher. And when I'm like, leading people and pushing people, especially, but like, I don't prefer that. But it came out very close to the eye. And I'm like, but my thing is like, anybody will read this and be like, oh, this is not accurate because I'm not an extrovert, or this is not accurate because I'm not an introvert, right? And I think it's because it's very, even if you're close to the middle, it will still say E. But when I read the executive, which is the profile of the ESTJ, it's me, 100% me. Like it's just that one. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is me. So I don't get caught up on the E, on the S, and the P, like, and then the J, it means like, how you like things in a certain order. I'm like, I don't think I'm orderly all the time, right? Like, so I'm like, is that wrong? But no, take a look at the entire personality. What happens with all 4 letters are together? Because what I've experienced is like a lot of people, especially when taking MBTI, and I've been in a room of people that took MBTI, there was a lot of, I'm not a J, I'm not an E. But when they read their whole profile, it's like, oh, this is way too accurate.
I'm an INTJ, and it's accurate. And I'm all the way over to the I. It's not just the MBTI, but I think this is where I first learned it about assessments, is that
Yeah.
it truly is about your preference, right? So,
Yes.
if you don't align or think that you're an E or an I mean, well, most people know themselves the best, right? There's a whole self-awareness piece there that I want to talk about at some point. But yeah, I think with what I've tried to do, like with MBTI and the other assessments, is I do consider like when I took it, and that's why it's so important to be, um, kind of your best self when you're taking an assessment, making sure your environment is peace and calm, going back to the neuroscience piece around the 20 seconds or what have you. When you sparse out all of the letters, like you mentioned, I think that's when people start to calm down. And,
Yep.
too, it just kind of, and then you have to think about yourself in totality, right? Well, maybe I do show up this way at work, or maybe I show up this way at home. So oftentimes I think that you're able to associate those letters and get to, a point of acceptance.
Yeah, and that's super interesting to me. I think we're gonna go deeper into like the assessment itself, but like I will say where you take the assessment matter, right? And because something I always tell, like some assessments I think they do, right? I think that some assessments that are more generic, that are not as deep
Hmm.
as others,
Yeah.
like if I take it when I'm at home reading a book, I'm gonna
Hmm.
be like, leave me alone, don't talk to me, like every single answer, right? But
Uh,
if you give it to me when I'm in the middle of a presentation, talking to people and like engaging and doing that, like I'm probably going to be much more like inclined. So for me, that's why depth of the assessment matters because like even you think about, and I'm presuming Hogan does the same, it's also another very deep one, but Gallup does that where it's like, do you rather go to sleep or go to the mall? And I'm
hmm.
like, there has some very weird questions that you don't really know where this is going
Yeah.
or where it's
Yeah.
taking you.
Hmm.
And that is important because if you
Yeah.
ask me, do you like talking to people? And I'm in my couch with my book, I'm going to be like, no, I don't like talking to people.
Hmm.
But if you're asking me, do you like sleeping or the mall? I'm like, I don't know. What are you asking me? Yeah, I like the mall
Yeah.
better. And
Like,
like you
yeah,
are, yes, because it needs to take you out of the moment.
that's
And
right.
that's just an
Hmm.
opinion that I have. Let's go
Hmm.
into Gallup. And for the note here, we're both extremely biased about this assessment. Not the company, not, if you have beef with Gallup for other reasons, they do have great research. I'll have to say that their assessments and the research is really right on. But in terms of the assessment, Don Clifton, the founder and creator of this assessment, to me is short of a genius. And I think he really did a good job with this assessment. So Gallup, the way this was presented to me is like, if you think of the MBTI as the floor plan of the house, think about Gallup strengths as the furniture in the living room. And
Okay.
I think we're going to hit Hogan next. And then they told me, and Hogan is how you organize that living room
Mm.
and
Okay.
the rooms. So, and the reason it was said to me, and I want you to debate with me, we do this even if we weren't on this call, we will do this in real life.
Hmm.
They say that it basically is like a foundation. MBTI is like, yeah, you're an extrovert, introvert, J, B, all that, right? And then Gallup is your natural born talents, what you were naturally born being good at. So
Hmm.
people are born thinking, feeling, and behaving a certain way. And if I
Hmm.
have a team that has already been through a reorg, or I have a new manager that's like, I have no idea why my team does the things they do, I'm like,
Hmm.
you need a Gallup assessment to
Hmm.
understand what they're doing, what they're doing. And then when you add Hogan, which is the one we'll talk next, is how you arrange it because what I've been told is that Hogan is about the intentionality in which you
Hmm.
move through the world, your ambitions. You can have who you are, which is MBTI, then
Hmm.
what you're naturally born being good at to do. And then Hogan is the what intentions are you using those talents for? That's a theory my instructor gave me once. The analogy I typically use with my clients is the siblings analogy. So take a minute and
Hmm.
think about you and your siblings, picture them, and then think about are you guys are the same person? And I have had twins. I have had everything you could potentially imagine, and they're like, no, we're not the same person. Like I have done this in every country, and
Yeah.
like I love this about going to London and like in America because I'm like I try it. I'm like, oh no, everyone here says I'm not my sibling. So when I
Hmm.
have them think about it, it's like you are all born thinking, feeling, and behaving a certain way. And that assessment, to me, Gallup, is the one that shows it the most clearly.
I agree with it. I agree with that statement. And oftentimes I'll tell people well, what do you think? And many times they're like, oh, it was spot on. But for those who struggle, like, it's like, what do you think? I don't know. I'm like, okay, you know what? Go ask a parent or a
Yep.
sibling, right?
Or a
Or a
spouse.
spouse. Go ask, like, if you have kids, like your
Yeah.
teenagers or young adults, right? I love strengths because I just think it is so accurate around the
Yes.
talents. And when we, debrief and have discussions, it's like, yeah, I was like that when I was 10, and
Yes.
then we talk about the build, into the strengths.
Yes. And I think that, that's one of the we use the most here in HIK trainings is Gallup. We also use DISC and MBTI, but that one is one of the ones that are the most successful. Okay, Hogan. And I'm gonna lean more toward you because I'm a Hogan nerd, but I need to get my certification. It's like my Christmas gift for next year is like getting after I finish my ICF exam, it's like taking
Hmm.
that Hogan certification.
Okay, well, so first of all, I am not an expert on Hogan, and I've shared with you, I do want to get certified. I debrief. So let me just tell you. So with the Hogan, I was first introduced to the Hogan many years ago. I was working for this entertainment technology startup, and they specialized in a technology product that it was a streaming product that was based in Latin America. It was like four different areas of the business that we're trying to bring together. And we were doing this whole culture transformation with the company. One of the things we did was we assessed all of the executive team members and the senior leadership team. And Hogan was one of the tools that we use. And it was amazing. And when I took the Hogan, I was
Mhm.
like, oh my God, that
I need to do
that
it.
is me. And this was before you. So I liked the Hogan. I wasn't 100% sold on other stuff, but I really thought the
Yes.
Hogan was great. And so it was a wonderful tool. I was the HR leader for that organization. And it truly did allow me to work with the leaders to build out plans and to actually take a look at, so, it takes a look at the leadership, opportunities, capabilities, potentiality, whatever you want to say, and then the derailment piece, right? And so I thought it was a wonderful tool from identification of leaders' potential and, integrating that into the succession piece, which was very important for the culture transformation work. And most recently, a few months ago, I'm now working with a senior leader at a large organization, and they use the Hogan. And so I debriefed the Hogan with him and like his learning executive. He and I are using that as a part of the development and coaching work that we're doing. And the Hogan, I think the Hogan is very predictive. I think it is a strong predictor of leadership ability. So I'm completely sold on the Hogan.
So the next one, I think I want to talk about this one as a duality, also for us to be able to cover because they're very similar because they have similar colors. They come from the same pendulum,
Uh-huh.
and this is disc and insights. And insights, I never taken it. Disc, I have taken it. We're also an authorized partner for disc. Here at HIK Training. So we delivered this training. Insights, not yet, but when I came to Microsoft, my team couldn't stop talking about insights. And I'm like, I think red is what they said I was. And I'm like, I don't know. Like,
So there are four colors.
yes.
I think knowing you, your top color is probably red. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to find out what red is because, like, it was so key. But for the sake of like just people taking
Yeah.
assessment, like a company's decided on taking assessments, right? Like, DISC is one that I will say this: I love the Catalyst tool. I do like it for easy to remember and easy for a team to know. Those are the positive ones for me for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the kind of like opportunities that DISC might have, it's just that it can be a little boxy. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people might feel like they're being put on a box.
Yeah.
And also, I think it lacks probably a little bit of the depth. Now, if you go
Mm-hmm.
through the emotional intelligence DISC model that they have, it's a little bit deeper because
Yeah.
here at HK Trainings, we really focus on that
Mm-hmm.
emotional intelligence. But I think that for me, that was a little bit of an opportunity. So we tried to incorporate other things to it, like the HIK training
Yeah.
method, to make it a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
robust.
Uh-huh.
But what are your thoughts on insights?
Yeah. So insights, I really enjoyed that assessment as well. I guess it's not fair for me to say that I was like, by the time I got to you, I was anti-assessments. I like two.
Yeah,
I
that's
like
true.
two. I like
I never heard
Hogan
you talk
and
about insights though. Uh, uh,
yeah. And I remember my colors. So I'm red, blue, green, yeah.
yeah.
But and again, I thought it was spot on when I read. They give you at the time, and it's been a few years, but there is a very detailed assessment report with insights. So I really appreciated that. And insights is really the way that I look at it. It's more about your energy, right? It's more about your energy. And I don't know if they did this at Microsoft, but the organization I was with, we would place our cubes, and they're like little Lego cubes. We would place the
Oh,
cubes on our cubicle. And so when you were approaching a colleague, you knew how to approach them. For
mm,
instance, like my top was red and it was like, be brief, be gone. Yep, that's me. Like, be brief, be gone, right? Whereas, I could approach, another colleague and I knew that it was important to ease into a conversation, right? Based
yes.
upon their color, like if they're a yellow or there's also a piece too with insights that lends itself to like the introversion and extroversion piece. So I think insights is really good, similar to DISC, but more in depth, really good to help people understand communication styles, right? So I have a
I love that.
similar
It
feeling.
sounds similar. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I am a
mhm.
D in this,
I'm
right?
a D too.
Damn it. And then so the be brief, be gone. That sounds a lot of like a D on this. So
Right. So
like and yeah,
you see how like all of well, depending on how you feel
yes.
about your assessments, but see how you can kind of
They all come from
weave.
the same kind of pendulum, right? Like
Right.
introvert, extrovert, thinker,
Mhm. Mhm.
feeler. But I do think, and it has similar colors too, red, green, blue, yellow. So it has like very
Mhm.
similar colors. And when I'm gonna approach a C person, like
Mhm.
they need time. And like
Yes.
there's a lot of analytical and a lot of hesitation. And I'm like, I need to
Mhm.
get this done, right? So like
Mhm.
I do use that. And I will say this just because we're talking about this, then I do have to say this. From all the assessments that I've worked with as a
Mhm.
partner, this client partner relationship is one of like the best ones that I've experienced. Like
Mm.
sometimes when I'm working with others, like it feels like I'm pulling teeth to try to get
Yeah.
this for my client. And I will say, like, not saying that the rest are not great. I'm just saying, based on my experience, this
Mhm.
has been the best customer experience for anyone that is trying to like partner with. Because, sometimes we get 100 people, 50 people, 20, like, and we need to get these assessments rolled out fast. And
Yeah.
sometimes they took it before and we need them and we need to have access to them. Like,
Yeah.
for any coach and for any organization doing this, it's a lot of work. And
Yeah.
sometimes when you have a partner that makes it easier. So I do have to say that about this because I have had really good experience with the customer service with
Mhm.
them.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. It's so important when you have good partners and vendors, because it's a lot of information to manage. With the disc, well, and with all of them, right? So it's like like oh, we're a D, we're a D. And sometimes I think we get caught up like in the letters, versus my communication style is more direct. I was with a client last week, and she's a German pharmaceutical company, and she in her role, she got that feedback on a 360 and she said, I'm just really kind of struggling. I don't know how to have like these conversations with, people like I need to get stuff done. I don't know how to not be assertive. And I said, well, hold on. I mean, assertive is a part of who you are. So
Yes.
don't not be that.
Yeah, exactly.
But the beauty of it, I said, let's reflect on the disc, right?
Mhm.
And let's take a look at communication styles, right? Because it's fine for you to be direct and assertive, but your assessment will help you understand how you can approach people. And she really appreciated that. I really appreciated that because I've completely forgotten that she had taken the disc. It was,
Yeah.
I mean, but it was spot on right there for that development piece. I think, a lot of organizations and a lot of coaches really like disc.
Yeah, for that reason. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, for me and my clients, I like going really deep.
Mm-hmm.
And because for me and my coaching style, I'm really trying to get to the truest form of self that you are. And like that authenticity is very important. And I would say I'm definitely going to look into who more about the strengths one tends to be very unique when you look at it from a
Yeah.
natural born talent
Yeah.
standpoint. And I think that it just makes a huge difference. Now, there's plenty out there. Please, in the comment section, add your comments and thoughts and your favorite types of assessments. Before we continue, I think we have a comment in the chat. It said, I love how having my team do the Gallup assessments and running a team session with a coach helped me adapt my leadership to each team member and help me do the work better. I think I will say if your company's having you take an assessment, take full advantage of that opportunity. When I do these assessments for my people, for my team, I'm like, this is an investment on you and something you can use for the rest of your life. This is a gift
Right.
that is of something that you will know and use for the rest of your life. I do want to address one of the most common questions I get every time. Will my results change? If I do my assessment in this many years and this many years and this many years, my results will change. And I can only talk about the ones that I'm certified to speak of. So the other ones I'm assuming are probably pretty similar because all brains work the same way. But I love your intake. My answer to that is just like a brain, where we're trying to measure is the movement and the actions your brain takes, what gives it energy, what releases dopamine in your brain and what doesn't. And just like there's two things that can change the way our brain works. It's drugs, don't do them, they're bad for you. A drug-free zone. And then, yeah, don't do that. Or traumatic life events will change the way your brain is wired. So if you went through a traumatic brain event, it will work. Now, all these assessments typically work after the age of 26. Why? Because your prefrontal cortex not fully developed till the age of 26. So this is something I use with my kids too. Like you will not be able to make any life-changing decisions till
Yes.
after
Oh
6
God.
years old.
Yes. That's another lesson too.
Life lesson. That's speaking from
Sometimes
experience.
35, sometimes it's 40, but that's
Yeah,
a different
sometimes 40.
session.
We don't even know anymore. Yeah, when the brain is. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, retaking the assessment piece?
Yeah. So that's come up before. And again, I can speak on what I'm certified in, and I'll speak on what I've seen too. So that's really drilled by Gallup. Take the assessment once. So hopefully I won't get any type of like official mail from
Backlash.
Gallup or backlash. We're revoking your certification.
Yeah, yeah. It's like,
But
take
I
it out.
so I think differently about the guidance, but very much to what you said, right? Like, so, our brain can be altered depending on, substances or traumatic situations. So with strengths, and I'll just use myself, I took it once and then many years later, I took it again and it changed. My top 5 changed. Now, I was in a different phase of life. I don't know if they were traumatic, but some heavy stuff happened
Yeah.
over the years. Not necessarily sad, but like, there was a career change. There was a different focus. There were some other personal things that happened. And
Children will change it, right? The
children, right. So
divorce, death.
children will change
Yeah.
it. And mine shifted. So
Mhm.
my 1 through 13 shifted. And
Yeah.
what I attributed it to was what was going on in my life and what I was giving my energy and strengths to. Now, my talents and strengths did not change. They just
Yeah.
shifted. And so, I do think, it's like, you could take the assessment at the beginning of college. And then once you graduate, that could look very different. Children, deaths, it just, life changes.
Yeah.
I think could shift. I don't think the core ever changes though. I just think they move up and
I
down.
have a client that every time when she goes to a new company, she's like, I want to redo it. And she's my client and she's paying for it. But I'm like, she has shifted and she has probably taken it 3 times. No, she took it once and then she took it twice with me with her new companies. And I just use her as an experiment because I'm like, it's not going to change. Your bottom is your bottom. And your tops are going to just move around.
Yeah.
She's like, I want to take it. Literally. Both times. Same thing happened.
Yeah.
But to me, it was more of an experiment. Like I eat what I preach and I believe in this. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I'm believing in the right thing. And like, it has been that way. And there's been a couple of people that have shifted after, like, again, traumatic event situations,
Yeah.
but the top remains the top.
Yeah.
Another client, he had high command, high activator, like a lot of influencing. A lot of his
Hmm.
influencing move around, but it didn't change from his core. And I think it's also depending on what you're going through at that time. And this is what I also
Yeah.
tell people, like, just like they are tools. These assessments, these things that you find out about
Hmm.
you are tools for you to use out there in the world. And when I took these assessments was during a time where I was constantly trying to fix what was wrong with me as a person that has restorative in their top 10. I was trying to constantly fix what was wrong with me. I'm like, no, I make these decisions and I do this and then suddenly after taking these assessments and becoming a coach for one of these assessments was like, oh, everybody has something that is wrong with them and everybody
Hmm.
has something that is right with them. And
Hmm.
it's not either wrong, and it's not either right, and it's not either good, it's not either bad. It's all about how you use what you were naturally given.
That's right. That's right.
And for me, that's what I try to say every time. If
Hmm.
there's an opportunity for you to find out who you are in a different lens, take it and learn and then use
Hmm.
that as a tool.
I think that's right. I'm glad that you said that because, again, these assessments don't define you. They are just tools to help you understand more about yourself. And like Ed said earlier, it's difficult to develop what you don't understand. So if you're able to take
Yep.
advantage of these tools, then use it as that. And, if you don't like what you see, I mean, okay. Going back to the beginning of the conversation, it was you who helped me. So when I saw that, when we had the conversation about one of my strengths, input in particular, I felt
Yeah.
like it explained my entire life. And so that is also the beauty of a good coach as well.
Yes.
I think it is
Thank
very,
you.
very important for any of these assessments that you have individuals who are qualified to debrief them. And also, it's not a one and done because what you see
Yes.
oftentimes is, okay, I took the assessment, now what? And that is where I think organizations or leaders fail
Yes.
because, they or drop the ball. Well, you have to continue the work.
Yes, and
Yeah.
we will put an article in the comment section for here if you have more questions individually about each that we publish with ATD. But I do want to say this, Angelique, we will also put her information in the comments. She is one of the best coaches that I have ever worked with, and I don't say that
Thank
because I know
you.
her. Like she literally, I'm like, hi, I'm gonna call you this week so you can coach me. Like those are the kind of like conversations that we have. And it's been a pleasure having you here and having coffee and water because today I needed some water while talking about one of our favorite topics of assessments that I know we've had so many times in private, but I'm glad that we were able to like put the lens on one of our best topics of conversation.
Well, thank you. It has been my pleasure.
Love it. Okay, everyone. Thank you. And I'll see you on our next episode of Coffee and Coaching.